pinnacle of human perfection.
Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this special broadcast with Alex from Indigo Light. How's it going, brother?
I'm good, brother. How are you doing?
Oh, man, wonderful. And the energies, man, they've been all over the place. I try to pay attention because we do this show on Tuesdays where we discuss it. But, man, it's just been all over the place. Anything from nausea to hot flashes to dizziness to weird deja vu that isn't really... Not really deja vu, nostalgia. I've had these feelings of nostalgia, but nothing like, no smell or anything to really feel like it triggered it. You know, like normally you'll smell something, you're like, oh, that reminds me of my mom when I was a kid or something like that. I'm getting those feelings of the nostalgia, but I don't know why. You know, seems to be time anomalies or something. So hopefully you can shed some light on some of the weirdness we're feeling with these energies.
A lot of weirdness, that's for sure. We were just discussing a few minutes ago the element of faith. Because I think what you're describing in terms of like physical happenstances, I think are indeed kind of temporal anomalies, kind of overlaps of things you've been through before, the past, present, and future, kind of in a singularity, overlapping, which is a new state that we're being in, basically. And we're kind of discovering or rediscovering the nature of time. But in terms of an overall climate, and I've said it in the last few videos I've made, I think for me it's been the most difficult period of the last 10 years. Easily. And I feel like because I began my kind of journey about 11, 12 years ago, and it has the same intensity as the beginning, therefore I feel like there's an foreshadowing to the end. The end meaning a place that we're done with the lesson learning and we can start kind of living in this new paradigm that we've been working towards all this time again and again. But as we were discussing a few minutes ago, there is a great element of faith. I think there's an overlapping because I do talk with clients and I get a lot of feedback about, so I know that I'm not the only one, obviously. So I was happy to hear you say this. There is a place where we're all kind of being pushed to the edge of our sanity these days and confronted with our biggest fears, our biggest doubts. And the only thing that's left to do, as you said, is just to believe and trust. There's literally nothing physically or ethically else that you can do to just say, I made it this far through all the thick and thin. I'm going to make it through this. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know where. I don't know anything. But if I don't believe now, I'll never actually believe.
That's funny you said that, and it's giving me chills, man, because these are the types of things that actually go through your head when you get to the point where you're like, it's completely out of my hands. There's nothing I can do about this. I'm just going to have to trust.
Yeah.
And I've really had my faith tested, and I've heard other people that, they're like, why is this happening? Everything was going great. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, all you can do is look back when everything looks so grim. You can look back and say, I made it this far. I just got to trust that moving forward, I'm going to be taken care of. And really, that's really all you have to rely on. The only proof is that we've made it this far.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. We are taken care of. It's just, we are keen on believing when everything is okay. So we're like, yes, I'm full of faith. And then, when things get difficult, then that's when your faith is really tested. I'm not a religious person, but if you look at any kind of religious text of any kind of religion, they have the protagonist going through some difficult things, and then they're pushed to the edge of their sanity, and faith has to come in, or you just crumble down. I think the biggest thing we're seeing, you mentioned physical temporal anomalies. Our physicality is sort of today counter-indicating where we should be going. So physically, everything seems to be, I mentioned it in a video that I made, it's like you're sitting on a beach and there's a huge tsunami wave coming. And you look at it, you're like, okay, this is not going to end up well. But if you close your eyes and you believe in your guidance, somehow this thing is going to end up right at the edge of your feet and you're just going to get a sprinkle on your toes. That's it. But if you look at the physicality, things look very grim and dire. Okay, so it's really a choice of, do I believe I can make it through this? But I think, indeed, we're always keen on believing when things are easy.
You know, and
when
there's a scripture for that too. That you
yeah,
know, because I know
okay,
you weren't as religion grew up in religion like
no,
me, but it was walk by faith, not by sight, and it
yeah,
goes right along with what you're saying here, where you know you can look at how grim things look, or you can close your eyes and trust that it might look grim, but things can change in an impossible, you know, miraculous way.
yeah,
You know,
it does happen. Like I'm sure if anybody watching this, yourself, myself, if we measure the miracles and the weird situations we've been in, and usually your guidance will push you to the edge of the edge of the edge, and at some time you'll surrender and give up and say, okay, I did what I could, and that's it. And then the next day, answers will pop up, or
right?
something will be, I mentioned a few times on the channel that quite a few years ago, I went bankrupt, and I ended up with $100 in my account. And I kind of lay down on the floor and I crawled up in a fetal position. And I said, this is it. I had a business, whatever. That night, I surrendered. And the next day, literally, I got like an email from the IRS and I got a huge refund for years and years. It was just an amount that would cover a couple of years without me working if I wanted to. And I
Wow.
started crying. And I was like shaking and crying. I was like, okay, if this doesn't make me believe, I don't know what would. You know what I mean? But it's pushing
Exactly.
to the edge, you surrender, and then so what comes next, I think, is going to be great if we can make it through this time.
So it's almost like getting to that point of surrender. So if anybody's at that
Yeah,
point right now and you've done everything and it's out of your hands, that's actually a liberating thing because now you know. You're like, it's going to take a miracle at this point. So I can't perform a miracle. So I'm going to trust that whoever
exactly.
is
Yeah,
the miracle maker will pop in here and do it, you know,
exactly. Exactly.
like they've done before, you know.
Like they've done before. We all have our miracles, all of
Yeah.
us.
Yep.
There, some situation you're on the edge of being homeless, you find a house. Just the last minute, what do you call the 90th minute or whatever you
Right.
call
Yeah.
it. Okay, it's a choice at this point, but if we don't believe now, I don't think we'll ever believe. This, considering everything we've been through, and it's a choice. And I think if we can make it to this point, it will invigorate our faith further down the line. So whatever happens, we'll be like, okay, I've been through these 12 obstacles, my Herculean tasks, whatever. I made it. I'm here. Therefore, I don't really need to fear anything anymore. Because once you get aligned with your guidance and you understand where you're here and what you're supposed to be doing to help others, everything will work out in your favor. But it's not, it's something I highlight lately, which I've understood lately. It's the huge importance between what I want out of life and what I need out of life.
Yeah.
Because your
Do you have
guidance
this
goes,
like?
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you kind of have this underlying feeling like the way it seems to be going in a wave and affecting a lot of people? It's almost like a training before something. You know, it's like
Yeah,
you're about to have your faith tested. Here's a little reminder of how it works. You know what I mean? Watch
yeah,
it play out in your favor, and remember this example because in the future it might be something that even looks more grim, right?
yes,
But it will work out. No matter how
yes,
grim it
yes, yes,
looks, it
yes.
will work out. So this is sort of a reminder for a lot of us, I think, that maybe got a little comfortable because we can get comfortable when things are smooth sailing, and then we think, oh, you know, it's easy to have faith if things are going smooth, is what I'm saying. You know,
Yeah,
it's the
absolutely.
storm that tests us and you know does us good,
It's growing out of discomfort. Comfort
right?
zones are comfort zones are bad for our growth. They don't really yield anything. And what I've been understanding is if you exist in a new paradigm, if we go backwards 20 years and neither of us had any kind of spiritual inclination, everything we saw physically is what we based our faith and understanding of the world on.
Yeah.
Today, you understand you and me are having a conversation. There's a computer, there's a room, but there's like a million energies around us. So we can't see them, we can feel them, we know they're there. Our understanding of the world is not physical. So
Mm-hmm.
today, I think we're being put in a position where we have to choose between physicality and something else. And it's an element of faith in what you cannot see, and you need to believe in order to see, and not see in order to believe. And
Absolutely.
that's the game that we're playing. But if you cave into physicality and you look only at the situation, that's the mistake, I think. And as you said, it's a preparation for existing and continuing on our existence with this new way of looking at life. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
a physical being. I saw a video the other day I mentioned in one of my videos about Sadhguru. It's one of those people
I
on
like him.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, I am not body and I'm not mind. My mind is not a real thing. My consciousness is real. My body is not a real thing. How do you get it? It's a temporary kind of construct to help me be here now. Okay, so the less importance I attribute to it, the more focus I can spend on my higher realm existence and create my reality from above below instead of from below nowhere. Okay, that's
That's
my take on things for
I
now.
like that. Yeah, it is a transition from, bottom up to top down, sort of. And getting to that point where you can trust your higher self. And it's actually liberating when you get to that point. You're like, man,
Yes.
all this time I've been thinking I need to figure all this out. I
Yeah.
don't need to figure any of it out. I've got a higher self that knows, and I just got to be in tune with that. Be in the moment, pay attention. And it's more of an observer role at that point. What am I being taught here? What's being shown? What lesson should I be learning from this? And it seems like the more open you are to that, the faster you can progress through these because you recognize them right away as being some sort of lesson. You can figure it out, move on to the next one. But years ago, I'd get hung up on a lesson for years,
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
And you don't progress if you're hung up on that. So as soon as you kind of have that awareness like that at that level, you begin to progress through the levels and learn so much more because now you're open and now you don't have the victim mentality like why is this happening to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a complete different shift in your perspective when you're recognizing it's something that's going to benefit you opposed to someone's out to get you or along these lines, you know what I mean?
Yeah. We lived only by physicality. So as you said, it was exactly that, the victim mentality. We were abandoned by whatever was up there, or we tried to learn through it. We learned about it from a book or from any kind of source that was tangible. Today, we're not physical beings, so we have a counterpart. It's like everywhere I walk in this room, I have somebody accompanying me, or something, whatever you want to call it. I have a guidance. Therefore, I'm not alone. So it does take a hell of a lot of weight off you in terms of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Responsibility towards things you cannot control, and out of fear, we try to control the uncontrollable, and it just ends up in anxiety and stress and more fear. So today we're in a place where we understand and we release to the universe and we release control over things we do not have control over to the creator, the universe, the source, the archangels, whatever you want to call it, energies. And things, from my experience, work out faster and better than ever before without driving yourself insane. And I think this is precisely that time. It's like, okay, you talk this talk, I believe, so on. Here's your test. Show me. Are you going to score 100 or are you going to score 50? If you score 50, you need to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate your faith. Faith is not a concept. I think it's the most difficult concept out of all of these intangibles that we work on. Believing unwaveringly. And I admire anyone who does, and I haven't met anyone who does until this day, to be very honest with you.
It is tough. Even, I mean,
Yeah.
at times I feel like that. It doesn't take much to sort of push you back into, oh, did I get off track somewhere? What's going on here? Something, and then start worrying or whatever. But in actuality, if you can just have that faith, that trust, that, things aren't going to change. I mean, you've always been taken care of up to this point.
Yeah.
There's no reason to think all of a sudden you're left out in the cold, right?
I think there's one thing to consider, though.
Mm-hmm.
If you're born and you come into this life and you have to fulfill a purpose, the minute you acknowledge your guidance, you start to alleviate the stuff that used to happen to you in order to teach you. Do you know what I mean? It's
Right,
like
the catalysts that get you back on track.
So you
right?
start to get rid of the catalyst so you don't have to experience things at the same intensity.
Right.
And therefore, your fear of negative things happening to you will diminish with time when you understand that every time you're in a jam, just go within. That's the point of meditation, and ask your guidance, okay, I'm at this intersection. What do I need to do? I'm not in the same state. If I can do that and be mindful, I can avoid a lot of headaches, physical, etheric, whatever, along the way, because I'm not the person I was. We all have our catalysts. Some of them are pretty severe. Usually it's illness or financial ruin or, I don't know, breakups, things like that. We have one or two in our lives. They push us, they propel us forward, but we don't need to be there again. We don't need to do this dance again and again. But I think we have that fear that's going to happen again. That's inherent. And we need to, release that to our guidance and say, I'm here. My ears are open. I'm present. Whatever you need, let's do it. I don't want to feel like I'm alone anymore.
That's a good point. I was just talking to somebody about that, and it's like, man, you can really kind of relax when you know that, to use religious terms, like you're in the will of the Father or your higher self, that because if we had all the knowledge that our higher self had, we would make the same choices, but we don't.
Yeah.
So we can rely that the knowledge that they have the will of, our higher self is the most optimal path for us. We just don't have the knowledge to recognize it just yet. So if we
Yeah.
can build that trust like you're talking about, then that keeps you right in the flow of things. And like you're saying, these catalysts that can come to knock you back on track, that you're in the flow of things until one of those comes, you're like, oh, did I get off track somewhere? So that's kind of where my
Yeah.
trepidation was, I guess, when, my faith was tested here recently again, I was like, wow, did I get off track or something? I haven't really dealt with this in a while. But, it was a reminder, I felt like, because things worked out in the end.
Yeah. Um, I think because you and I are talking today, it's the 25th of September. In the singularity of time, we are in the present. So we can't see the long game. I think our guidance exists in the, in the etheric realm, so there is no time. If you believe that one day, let's say you have an objective, if you believe that one day you'll end up there, regardless of any kind of circumstances, there is no need to worry about the present because things have already worked out in your favor to get you there. You may not understand how, and you may want them to turn out in a certain way to lead you there. I hope I'm making sense.
Mm-hmm.
But your guidance will take you to the place that you need. And that's I want to go from A to B through this path. My guidance will take me through this one. All I see is this is what I want, not what I need. Therefore, when I don't get what I want, I start to freak out and say, this is not going to work. If I believe that I'm going to get to that point, regardless of anything, there is no inherent need for me to freak out today. I need to recalibrate and ask my guidance, okay, my ego is not working, my ego way. Direct me the other path and take me to where we need to go together. Because it is a complicit journey. You're not alone anymore.
Right. And it can feel alone when you start worrying about stuff. You're like, hey, am I alone? But it doesn't take long for the old thought patterns to
one of the
back
things
up.
I mentioned lately, I noticed lately, because I'm learning a hell of a lot the last few months, is to take the time to acknowledge your soul and to ask your soul where it wants to go. Because you don't see the long game, and neither do I. The soul has an objective for being here. So until we do that, we don't really know where we're supposed to go, and we can save us a lot of headaches along the way as well.
Right. Exactly.
This is just one other thing that can help.
Yeah, and it's a liberating thing, and you don't realize that when you're in it and you feel like you have to control everything, but when you realize that you can release it and can accept the moment, the now moment, it's such a weight off.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
I didn't realize until you don't realize it until you are able to let it go.
I think because faith is counterintuitive to physical nature. Like in the Western world, especially, you have to get stuff done. Like if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you. It's called the dog-eat-dog mentality and all this stuff. You get it in the media, you get it in social media. You have to create everything yourself. Okay, people are not acknowledging that there's another part of them that they're not aware of, or they don't want to acknowledge willingly, and they're not giving it the time of day, and they should, which is your soul, the real you. The one that's using your body in order to traverse this lifetime. Once you do that, you can understand what the journey is about. And obviously, there's two people walking around. There's not one chain,
Right.
And it helps you. It helps you tremendously to release everything that is not yours.
And it helps even with the channel, and you see how people find, with a lot of times, we're not coming up in search results, but people will find us in some synchronistic way. Someone will share a video or just mention us or something like that. But and I think that's the perfect example, how we've been stripped away of the normal 3D algorithm that helps get the word out about your channel. And now it's relying on those other parts of us, that share and that are really things align in a synchronistic way, and people still find us, is what I'm saying. It doesn't, and it's good. It's a good example of what you're talking about, of sort of having a workaround to the physical, and realizing there is a workaround. And many times you're pushed to that point of, there's nothing else I can do in the 3D, and then you see it work out in a way that you had no idea it could work out,
And when you operate a channel, we both do. Stuff can come out of nowhere. That's the beauty. Like, you've taken a decision to put yourself out there. There are 8 billion people in the world. And any given time, things may seem dire. Channels have ups and downs like people do. They reflect you. And things can literally come out of nowhere. I've had my butt saved a couple of times, with the channel over the last few months. Just out of nowhere, literally. But I do believe that we each have our frequency, and there are many people out there with the same frequency, and when they're ready to find answers, they'll find you.
Right.
Regardless of marketing, organic, I don't know, all this stuff that I'm not very keen or very good at, they'll find you regardless, because you're the one that speaks their language.
Right.
And that's the feedback, that I get. Some people resonate, some people don't. I think it's a 50-50 thing.
Yeah, it's that
But you do it.
vibrational match that sort of
Exactly.
draws you together, and it
Yeah.
just happens.
It's a compatibility thing. So I think regardless of anything, as you said, anything physical, they will find you when they're ready and when they need you, regardless of anything. And I think people that have sometimes people are very, very successful in the physical realm, maybe because they have a more physical signature that more people that are physical can resonate with, and people that are more, I don't know, etherically minded or open or metaphysical, it's a bit more difficult to be on the same wavelength with everyone else. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So people are going to begin to, I guess, cluster in those ways. Do you feel like there's going to be some kind of split at some point, like some people believe? What's your
I
thoughts
think
on
the
that?
split. I think the split has already occurred. To
Oh,
be very
okay.
honest with you, I
Yeah.
think we are defined by freedom of choice. Everyone on this planet has a choice whether to. I don't like to use that. I think we've used the word awaken enough to open up to their possibilities of themselves and to what's really going on, what I call reality, which is not stable, but everything around. I think it's a choice. And I think it's like if you see the planet being kind of enveloped by waves of energy again and again, every time they awaken more and more people. I think there are early waivers, people that came here specifically for the purpose of helping others when they awaken and they're lost, perhaps you and I. And then there will be people in the future that are either already awakened, the younger generations, the kids born in 20 years, and people in between that are awakening. And some of these people will choose not to be here. They will choose to leave this plane because they don't want to deal with the frequencies, and others will choose to stay. Okay.
So I've often wondered that if the
Yeah.
split already happened and we wouldn't know any different. Just like, people don't see the Mandela Effect things happening, like right under their noses or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's often been my, that we could have shifted. So we might even see like people that they didn't seem very open in the past, but they begin to open up and begin to maybe question and have a little more interest than some of the things they've heard us talk about in the past. Maybe they started having dreams or symptoms like we have. And, so I think the reason I bring it up now, too, is because we just passed the equinox. And
Yeah.
I've noticed that a lot of people seem to have an awakening around the equinoxes, like the month before and after, like that shift or the feeling and the energy. Just, I know it was like that for me. I mean, matter of fact, it was right on the equinox, March 22nd of 2017, when I
Yeah.
saw the Mandela Effect and the world just looked completely different, just like in a snap of a finger.
The lifting of the veil, as they call it.
Right.
Yeah, that awakening. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So, what about the energies and the shift with the equinox, and do we have anything to expect with that you see?
I think from my perspective, it's more important because we always have, gateways and equinox and full moons and new moons. We always have these kinds of events. I think the overall climate is extremely demanding in terms of what we've spoken about, faith. So I think that should be the sole focus of people to highlight what are their challenges today, what are they dealing with. We all have our kind of core issues that keep on coming up again, and I think this time they're really being tested. And I just see from the work that I do on myself and with clients that we're really going back to the root of the root of the root of the core belief so that they can finally be released and it doesn't impact their lives anymore. So I think that we need to work on those, core beliefs, not even the resolution part of it, but the elevation above physicality is what I call it. Like physicality will come at you and you just kind of need to close your eyes, count from 10 to 1 and say, I believe in my body. I believe in my guidance. I believe in my abundance. I believe in love. And whatever this is, I will supersede it and I will move past it. I don't know how, but I will find a way. I think that's the most useful thing at this time. If there's any predictions of the equinox, I think I work more on an energetic climate basis, like week by week, month by month, and I try not to be, we have both YouTube channels. I try not to be what you call a YouTuber in terms of, if I don't have anything to say every day, I won't post. So what I'm trying to say is I grow through periods, I learn stuff and I find a way to put it into words and then I share it on my channel.
I
And
gotcha.
this period of time, the last 2-3 weeks, and I think the 2 weeks to come at least, that's what I'm getting in terms of dates, into early October are going to continue in the same note. What comes afterwards should be a feeling of great relief. If we can show the universe
Hmm.
that we are willing to believe, then it will, you know how the universe works. You put something out, you
Absolutely.
get something back. So if you can get yourself through the next couple of weeks with unwavering faith or trying to get there, then you may be surprised at the outcome afterwards, the other side of the wall, or whatever you want to call it.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to like to hear that because I know some people are just really knee deep in problems right now, and and all I can say is, just trust and know that it's going to work out because I don't know how either, but I know it will.
Yeah, I think because we both deal with people, we get feedback also from people.
So we see
Like
the trends. Yeah,
you must get a lot of emails of inspirational stories of your channel helped me, or this video helped me, and I was
absolutely.
on the edge. I was teetering on the edge of, I don't know, a breakdown or whatever, and somehow 3 days later, everything was resolved.
Hmm.
So that gives you food also for thought, for faith.
Oh,
He
definitely.
says, okay, like we're a family, we're a community. We
Hmm.
are not functioning in the same way with the world. A lot of the theme I'm getting lately is people being confronted with the physicality also of their families and those around us. And the kind of those people that they know that are more physical, they pull them down back to physicality and pragmatism. Like, you need to get a job, you need to do this. And they feel in their heart like they're being guided in a different way
Right.
since the day they're born. And it's a crossroads, and it's difficult. And sometimes you just need to believe your own heart and to follow through with that, regardless of what everyone is telling you, including the fact that you're insane, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're talking about, you need to be pragmatical, realistic, blah, 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 all these words that we know. So
That's
I
so
think that's
true.
the
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah, I think when somebody has a completely 3D perspective, it's like they're stuck in the grind. It's like you got to work, you got to pay the bills, and there's nothing really beyond that. It's got to be that way.
Yeah,
That's like top priority. Everything should be guided by the finances rather than by the heart, and that's straight up a 3D way of looking at it. But that's just where some people are, and then so a lot of couples and things, someone who has like a higher perspective, they feel like they need to step out in faith and maybe
yeah,
start doing whatever their gift is. Now they've got this 3D person that's sort of saying that well, we got bills to pay, that's not important. And what's important is a house over your head. And it sounds like it makes a lot of sense, just from a very pragmatic, like you're saying, what I mean. But you got to really deal with that, and it can be rough, to have faith when you have that constantly in your
yeah.
ear.
But I think if you have a calling and you awaken to it and you say, I understand finally what I'm here for. I think the theme with most of these people, you and I included, is that I will assume from the day you're born, you're guided by heart and you feel like you need to do your own thing. That's how a lot of people end up working with. They feel like they're
Right,
the black sheep of the family.
right.
And your family goes towards, or your relationships or whatever. And there's this divide of like, I feel my heart is leading me somewhere, whereas pragmatism says go and get a job in insurance and get a mortgage and the usual stuff. Um, it's a matter of faith at the end of the day. It's a matter of choice and a matter of faith. And this is exactly the physical test. But I believe strongly that if you have a calling, like what you're doing, what I'm doing, what millions of people are doing out there, you can also benefit from it financially. You can create
Right.
abundance doing something you love and has meaning. If somebody doesn't understand that, that's fine. If they think you need a what do you call a job and to do the usual stuff, I think
Right.
there is a third way or a second way, and that's really led only by faith. Because when I started this channel, I think you as well, there was no guarantee. It's could have been a huge failure and whatever, but we felt like we have to do this. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing else to go back to. We don't resonate with any industries or any pockets of the world, and abundance is an energy. It's not money. It's
Right.
not the bills. You can literally pop out of nowhere and then disappear the next day. So you
And
kind of need
it's
to
funny
work.
that I get an email like what you were just talking about, and it's like a
Yeah.
million. It feels like $1 million. You know what I mean? Like, wow, I really helped somebody in a
Yes.
real way. They were really down, and I brightened their day, or now they have a place they can come and hang out and find other people. Or that just means, like I said, it's like $1 million to me. Just the feeling you get when you connect with the divine in that way, and you're really doing the work, that higher level work that's way beyond you. You know what I mean? It just feels very satisfying.
Also nice, because sometimes when you help people, you know, through different formats and you put yourself out there, at points it can be a lonely journey. There are times where you have your guidance, but you know they don't have a physical form, so you're helping everyone. But it's nice to get that feedback that also, you know, helps you with your faith, helps you understand that you're on the right path.
Yeah. They
Because if
seem to come
somebody,
through at times when you really
yeah,
need them too. You know,
exactly,
it's fun.
exactly. I told you you're wearing a hat with 233. We sat down. I had some genuine, you know, thing that was bothering me this morning. I just meditated before our interview. I saw your hat and I started, you know, laughing within because I said, okay, I get it. Those are exactly the numbers that usually help me. They pop out of nowhere when I have a question.
There they are on my
So,
hat.
but you are also, as your physical form, the feedback, because we speak the same language, which is not always something that people find. You may be in a village somewhere and you're the only person that speaks this language, and everybody else tells you you've lost your mind. Okay, which happens more often than not. So it's a journey, and it's nice to know that we have a community online, and there are people every day that awaken and have all these symptoms. They go to doctors, they don't find answers, they find awakening, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, and then they want to find people that can tell them that they've been through the same thing and to explain to them why, which is exactly what you and I are doing. So the
Absolutely.
community is nice. I'm not gonna, you know, downplay it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it feels really good to have a bunch of people that keep flocking to us. And, well, I don't want to say flocking. That sounds like they're coming in droves, but they're finding us over
Yeah,
time. Like-minded people. So it's really cool because it does feel like you're in the wilderness for a while with nobody to really, you know, talk to. And then all of a sudden you kind of come out and there's this clearing with all these other people. You're like, oh, hey, cool. I found some other people, you know?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's nice.
So what
It's
do
a
you
way
do
break.
as
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
So what do you do as far as do you do counseling or what kind of work do you do in your when you
I
have
offer
sessions?
different kinds of sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Amongst them, I do channeling as a service, kind of
Mm-hmm.
talking. I don't channel for people; I channel with them. So I help them kind of connect to the inner voice, and I just do the talking. But with time, the idea is to get them independent, so they can talk to their own guidance, which I think is the most useful tool ever. We don't need any kind of external paraphernalia when you have that inner voice. I do past lifetime regression and core belief resolution. That's what I call it. Healing sessions, and among other services. I started doing something called 5D business integration, which is what I call it. It's basically how to create and integrate your business values in physicality without it being about the money. Because as I've understood in the last 6, 7 months, you know, having ups and downs and so on, abundance is an energy, and we need to focus on that and what is preventing us from letting that energy in our physicality instead of the numbers and the paperwork and the money and all these, you know, these terms. Um, those are the basic services that I offer. I also started doing personal retreats, which is sitting down with a person one-on-one, and I'll be offering retreats very soon, like larger retreats with more people that can attend as well.
Just different
That's,
areas of the country, or
yeah, I am in Ottawa right now, but I'm going to be
mm-hmm.
relocating in a few days. And after winter, I don't know. I'm probably going to be moving to another part of Canada from the looks of it. I haven't decided where. I'm letting my guidance guide me. That's part of the uncertainty we're talking about. You know, when
Yeah.
everything is up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a person with many roots. Like I've moved. I don't know. This is my seventh country. I've moved from the age of 23. I've been on the move. Um, but yeah, I would love, and I will come to the States as well to certain key points. That's why I've asked actually a few days ago from the people that follow the channel to tell me where they are. So I can find places that I can aggregate for everyone so they can come and, you know, we can have an event. So it's comfortable.
Awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the States and Canada are definitely, you know, where I'm at right now. And it's the reason why I came to Canada in the first place.
Well, I've got quite a few people in Canada, so I'll
Yeah.
definitely help get the word out about that because I know they'd want
Thank
to
you.
do the same kind of thing we did at ESETI. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
last year at down in Austin. So we've been
Yeah.
doing smaller ones too. We're working on a East Coast one now. So there's a lot going on. There's one in St. Louis on November the 11th. So I want to mention that really fast. If anybody is in the St. Louis, Missouri area, you can send me an email and I will forward that email to get you that information if you're there for
The
the
same event you
11/11.
had sent me.
That is that's the one that we had in Tulsa last year. It's going to be
Yeah,
in St. Louis this year on 11/11, and then I'm going to be actually speaking that weekend before, um, up in Idaho, at a Mandela Effect conference. That might
cool.
have been the one I sent you.
Now, you sent me something. I think it was in Texas, if I best remember. I
Oh,
remember
okay, yeah, that
something
was
in Austin.
New Year's. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because you mentioned ESETI.
yeah, and
Okay,
then you said he,
cool,
yeah,
awesome.
awesome.
So
All right.
it's important to be mobile, like around the states, move around, and
Yeah, because
um,
it's so big, and like I said, I've been wanting to do one either up in Chicago or over in Canada because there's a lot of people up there.
yeah, yeah.
And Canada's huge, so
Canada's huge, but it's
yeah,
like I think there's a lot of congregation of energy on the West Coast, especially of Canada and the US. Because I went to the kind of addresses where people are from, and I feel pulled towards there even before I came to this country, obviously.
hmm,
And there's a lot of awareness and just output coming from that area of the States and Canada. So it's something to consider as well. I do have a few
very nice.
clients from Tulsa, I'll be honest with you, from Oklahoma.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
So I've put them on your channel as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Because I guess everybody knows each other at this point in this
Yeah,
community. But the rest of the states are pretty spread out.
yeah, they really are.
Yeah. So I'm
But
trying to
I
find.
was thinking, that's why I even set up a spot on the website for people in different areas to say, hey, I'm in, New Mexico or wherever, and other people, and then just do smaller cells of just like a half dozen people just to get together for coffee or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
just because I've been shown how that connection's important. It's like we sort of activate each other, on an etheric level, and many of us have lived these lives over and over again together, and
Exactly.
it's going
Yeah.
to activate something within us as we meet, and you don't have to make every one, but it's like we sort of carry the energy of other people as we go to more and
Yeah,
more of
yeah.
these, and we're connecting the grid. I mean, there really is some sort of energetic grid that we're working on and that we're all part of.
It's like it's also a support system.
Mm-hmm.
You find, we've all had these times that we feel like we're losing it and we're alone. You know, Especially with the symptoms and all the things that we go through. And it's
Yeah.
nice to go to a meeting somewhere in a coffee shop, restaurant, wherever you choose to park, wherever you choose to meet,
Mm-hmm.
and to not have to explain what you're going through, what you're feeling. You kind of sit there, and it's the same language,
I
which
think
is
some
which
people
is
don't.
rare.
Yeah, people don't know what that's like until you
Yeah,
actually go to one of these meetups and realize that you
exactly.
can sit down with anyone there and you will be understood, and that's strange, until you experience it,
And
But that's
people
one of the coolest
people will
parts.
connect to you as like I did courses many years ago, and I found my kind of group abroad, and I didn't have to explain anything, and people saw me for what I was, also energetically, in terms of energy and presence and all these things. It wasn't in the West. We usually ask each other, hi, what's your name, Shane? What do you do? Which
Right,
is the question, thankfully, in Canada, people don't ask so much, or in Asia either. But there is this value, like added value regarding what you
right,
do. If you're successful,
right.
great. And if you're not, it doesn't happen in the circles. People just see you for what you are. They don't care what you do or where you live or what you wear. It just doesn't matter. And you
Right,
have a connection immediately. No, you don't have to sell yourself. I feel like the rest of the time when we go out and we meet new people, there's, in the 3D kind of thing, there's a selling point. You have to kind of
that's
differentiate yourself and make yourself stand out,
that's
which
so
is
true.
which is
Yeah,
unnecessary.
yeah. I think it seems like at these get-togethers, people are more interested in people's experience and how did you wake up, or what kind of experiences did you have. I mean, that seems to be just, and it's more of an excitement thing than it is a judging sort of thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just exciting to hear how someone, the journey someone else made and how they got there. And you'll see a lot of commonalities between, people that maybe came from Christianity and people that came from other places, and
Yeah.
they've got similar stories of how they ended up in the same place. And it's enjoyable to talk to someone like that because they've been there and done that, and that they understand what you're saying and the hard times that you might be going through, like what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Support
absolutely.
system.
Also gives you, how do you say, I guess, faith, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you meet someone who's been through something you're going through, and there's no kind of easy way to get out of it, and they just kind of give you their output on it, their input, sorry, and you learn from that as well. I think when I try to help people, I always try to tell them that we're not here to do abracadabra, magical stuff. I think what we're doing is just sharing our perspective on life. We went through some stuff. We learned some, different kind of approaches to life from these events, and this is how we look at life. And just sometimes sharing your perspective with someone may illuminate them in ways that you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to share your journey. And as we've said multiple times in this interview, and I guess millions of people have said this as well, we feel alone many times. We are confronted with things that we cannot tell our parents, our siblings, our partners, our children, our coworkers. So it helps to have these groups where you can kind of blurt it out, and people say, I went through this 2 years ago. Here's what I did. And you say, thank you. And then you go home and you try to apply it,
Absolutely.
So it does help, definitely.
With your past life regression, have you run into any extraterrestrials? Or I know some of it might be confidential, but what kind of interesting stories have you come up with that in your line of
From my own pretty.
Just sessions you've done? Anything?
Sessions with clients many times. To be very honest with you, I don't consider it. I kind of integrated this extraterrestrial or all this stuff into my life many years ago, so I don't consider it something out of the ordinary.
Right.
You have your usual lifetimes of it. When I just want to mention, when I do past lifetime regression, it's for a conflict resolution. Because some people,
it's like sort of baggage they're carrying along.
Yeah, we're trying to clear. We go to another life, we clear a wound, we put in a new energy, and we change kind of the pattern that led to today. It's not, because I know there are past lifetime regressions that are just for the purpose of experiencing, which is something I can do, but I'd rather help the person clear the wound that we have to work on. Sure. In terms of patterns, Atlantis, many, 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 many times. Lemuria, ancient Egypt. More recent lifetimes, I haven't been exposed to so much, and many lifetimes off-world. That's why I made a video about Lyra and the Orion Wars. And I have people who've been working on all sorts of different forms that they were in another lifetime, from mantises, insects, Arcturians, whatever. There are like a million life forms out there, anyways. It's quite common, to be very honest with you. But it really depends how far the person is willing to go back and the wound that they come with. If it's a wound from parents in this lifetime and you go back to Atlantis, which seems to be a real big theme, we'll work on that. If they come from some kind of, we also go back to creation of soul, the place when the soul is separated from the source, the spark, the divine spark, the initial spark.
Wow.
So that's a very kind of weird journey, because you take the person and they can't see anything. They see stuff, they see shadows, they see shapes, they see lights. They don't understand, so you have to kind of guide them through that.
Wow,
so there are different, these are things I've done for myself, obviously. When we finished the course I did a course many years ago on channeling and exactly what I'm doing today, and we had to go back to our birth physically in this lifetime, which is the biggest wound, coming out of your mom, and the divine spark. The initial birth, the time where you're set. That's when the fear comes in of being alone. Everything we're talking about.
Really traumatic. It seems like it would be.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's like there is the invention of individualism. The source takes a part out of itself, and then you look at it, but you're no longer part of it, so you have to kind of manage on your own. It's very abstract.
Yeah, that sounds very. That sounds traumatic. It sounds, just to feel like it's sort of the same thing you're saying with the womb. You're in the womb for 9 months. You feel cozy in there, protected, surrounded, and then all of a sudden this cold, rigid air hits you, and it's like, what the heck? You know what I mean? And now you feel...
And you know what you're going to face.
Right.
On the soul level. You know that, as you say in English, shit is going to hit the fan at some point. So you're going to have to deal with a lot of stuff. So you're like, no, I'm going to stay in here, I'm just going to stay in here and continue just chilling. I don't really want to face the music, which is normal. But I do, from experience doing this, doing this since 2009, those are the two most traumatic and biggest things that keep on playing. This fear of being alone, of abandonment, of love. You were separated from source or from mother. You're looking at the person, but you're not part of them, so they still love you. It's like a very thematic kind of thing. Yeah. But it's weird and it's abstract and it's not easy to, I've seen people kind of start crying and feel spaced out when we do some of these difficult episodes because it's overwhelming. But it does help.
Yeah, that definitely seems like something I need to explore. Because just
So
thinking about it seems like, and that's kind of a shame because it's been hanging around with you all this time since the very beginning. It's like you've never known what it's
yeah,
like not to carry that around,
yeah,
because
exactly.
before that there was no reason to feel that. You were all part of Source, and then
Yeah,
the same way with being born into this reality, you don't really remember anything before the womb, so it's the same sort of thing. Everything was perfect, and then I'm out here.
how do you say? There was when I was in college, I studied history, and there was a saying called. I'm gonna paraphrase. I think it was "power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately."
Right.
What I'm trying to say is, when the Creator gives you this freedom of choice and all this power with all the probabilities and all the possibilities, it's normal on an abstract level, I'm not talking on a physical level, to freak out and say, okay, what am I supposed to do with all this power? And then with time, you get involved in Earth and in the karmic cycle, and you kind of get, stuck here. What they call, I don't like to call it a prison planet, but there is a karmic cycle that bounds you to the planet Earth for some time. For me, it's only the third lifetime that I spent here. So I didn't fare very well with physicality, responsibilities, and being inside a body. And you get bound to here, and you have to kind of fulfill these physical things, and you forget all of what you were before, and you just see yourself as a simian descendant human being paying the bills, going to your job, and the disconnect between that and what you came from is massive.
Oh
So to
yeah.
bridge that gap is a lot of work, and it opens your mind and your everything. It opens up.
But once you're really on that journey, man, it's a blast. You
Yeah,
gotta admit, it's not a dull moment anymore.
it's reality. We have this concept of reality, which is limiting, which is what we were talking about before, the 3D things with money, shelter, the survival stuff. And then there is reality, which is everything else, the dark matter of the universe floating around, and the atoms and the tachyons and energies that we don't, we can recognize and accept, but we can't see them, and we can't, we have to just kind of believe they're there. And
Hmm.
for me, that's what I call reality. So when I work, if I work with a client and we work on a lifetime on another planet, I just ask them not to open up their minds and not to consider this an improbability. Because to be honest with you, if a spaceship lands in my backyard now, I'm not going to freak out because I've trained myself over the years to understand that this is the reality of the world. We're not alone. There's an infinite amount of things out there. We just need to accept them and to consider them part of our family. And if they come someday and present themselves, it was just a delayed kind of appearance. It doesn't mean they weren't there all along. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Exactly.
just the physical kind of thing, like go to the supermarket and do your, I don't know, your daily stuff. That's fine, but that's really the tip of the iceberg, and you have to spend time exploring the rest.
That's funny you said that because it was the same thing with beginning to see things in a spiritual sense, like orbs or shadow beings or things like that. And I always tell people they've always been there, so there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
just
yeah.
now seeing them because some people get freaked out. You start seeing stuff moving around or whatever out of your peripheral vision, and it can seem creepy. But when you realize like, oh, they've always been there, it's just I'm noticing them now. It's a greater awareness
Yeah.
rather than something to be fearful about.
It's no, it's normal. It's normal. I've done sessions on myself, and I always go back to when I was a little kid, and I always had this. I worked on different, kind of wounds, but it always takes me back to the same place. And I'm in a crib. I'm a kid. I'm like very small. And there is this huge gray presence in the corner of the room. And when I started, I thought it was an ominous presence. And eventually it called itself Metatron as I went through the sessions. And obviously, I don't remember that. And when I went back to it, I said, oh, this is some evil spirit. This is not good. So I think it's normal to react with an element of fear when you go to, we watch all these movies, these, I don't know, paranormal activity, all these kind of movies that have cult followings. And we know there's stuff around, but when you start to feel, and I'm not comparing, but when you start to feel the metaphysical in your physical presence, it can freak you out at first, which is completely legit. But with time, you realize that, you took a vow that this would be your life. You opened up you lifted the veil, and this is what is beyond, and there's a lot more. So you just kind of have to accept it and to cooperate with it, you
And
know.
I see a greater acceptance just across you can see that whole, what they speak of about like the 100th monkey effect, just like in the last decade, just some of the things we talk about. they would have seemed super crazy,
Yeah,
10 years ago, are being more accepted. Like just some things like that we're living in a simulation or
yeah, yeah.
something along these
Hologram,
lines.
yeah,
That was ridiculous when the
yeah,
Matrix first came out. Nobody thought,
yeah.
they thought this is ridiculous. But now they're like, well, maybe, who knows, But it just seems like people are a little bit more open minded to stuff. So you can really see it moving in that direction,
There's definitely
especially,
a climate, yeah. I was having a
yeah.
conversation with a friend the other day about people that have like they don't believe in what we're talking about. And I said, I'm 36. I grew up with certain heroes, musicians, and so on. They're all gone. And there's a pattern. Like if you look at the amount of people that quote unquote came, fulfilled their purpose, and chose to leave in terms of musicians and actors, people that impact their culture and generation, the number of people that were impactful are all gone. I don't think that that's by happenstance. You know what I mean?
All right.
It's just too many individuals that impacted our culture and opened our minds to the possibilities that are gone at once within the span of 5, 6 years, way before their time. They didn't live to be 80 or so. That's one thing I've
Is
asked
he
people
being
to
like the
consider.
Princes and the Michael Jacksons and the really the people
And
that
the David
really,
Bowies and the Robin Williamses and the, I don't know, Anthony Bourdains. And I
yeah,
have like a huge list of, people I've been looking up to or
yeah,
admiring through the years, and they're all gone. Chris Cornell from Soundgarden, because I'm
yeah.
a big music fan. So I don't believe in, it's just too many people in that small amount of time to be. And my teacher at the beginning, many years ago, had warned us of this. She said there would be people that fulfill their role and leave to kind of leave a space for the next generation to come and awaken. And there would be other people that, because the density of the fifth dimension as opposed to the third, would choose illness or other circumstances to leave the body because they can't handle it, because it asks too much of them to take too much responsibility, to make too many changes. That's how you have, I guess some of these people just were meant to go because they were done, and the others couldn't handle the situation.
It's funny because that actually came through in a session that an artist that had died young, that he had already fulfilled his purpose up to that point, and so he was done here basically, even though he
Yeah.
was still so young. And when you see this across the board, even like Michael Jackson, I mean, the effect he's still having, he's even gone, and he's still having a huge impact with the music he put out.
That's the thing. They leave the stamp and they go. If you go further back in time, Jim Morrison,
Yeah,
Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Joni Mitchell. Um, I see a pattern personally, and I've kind
yeah.
of highlighted to whoever wants to look into that, because especially in the last 10 years, it seems like everyone is gone, from the 90s and so on, and everyone before their time, at least 30, 40 years before their time, which is a bit strange if you look into that.
It is really strange, and I know a
Um,
lot of people go the dark way. They're like, "Well, it's the Illuminati taking them out and stuff like that."
okay.
But and I'm not saying I subscribe to that, but I see the videos and stuff like they were taken out. They mentioned chemtrails, and now they're gone, and you see a lot of these things. But I do see when I actually dig deeper and get information from a higher level, it isn't that it's the Illuminati; it's that they were done. They finished their purpose here. So that sort of
Yeah, I think
fearful
so.
explanation isn't really what's happening at all.
They're also, yeah, I don't know. Do you know Dan Aykroyd? He's an actor, played in Blues
Oh yeah,
Brothers. Yeah,
yeah,
he lives in Ottawa. That's why I'm mentioning him. He's actually pretty big on exposing stuff, and he's still alive. So is
yeah.
Jim Carrey. So I don't think it's that at all.
Right.
I think it's just a congregation of energies that have finished their purpose, even though it's premature,
Right.
and they're gone because they were just done. We just have to kind of accept it.
I think a lot of people see the number patterns, like they'll see the gematria and all the connections with the numbers, and it's so amazing sometimes, and it's synchronistic. But to me, it seems like it's beyond what a human can do. To me, it's like you're seeing beyond the veil at the synchronicity and the fact that they served their purpose and they were supposed to die at that time. Not that that was planned to die on that date to make the numbers line up. Do you see what I'm saying?
No,
It's,
yeah,
it's
of
a
course,
lot
of
of times
course, yeah.
people get it in reverse. I think it's a hint at you're seeing through the veil a little bit, and they'll say, "Oh, well, they planned it out this way."
Um,
So
I
I don't
think
know.
that I'm doing an event on this actually on the 27th on synchronicities to
Mm-hmm.
explain. What I want to focus on is the language of the universe, which is mathematics,
Mm-hmm.
and it's reactive. What I mean is something happens, and you will look at all these sciences from astrology to, I don't know, numerology. Even, I'm not going to call tarot to science, but these are the tools that were given to humans many, millennia or hundreds of years ago in order to be able to interpret, but those are reactive tools. I don't think that somebody left because the mental numbers line up. I think the numbers, reflect the fact that somebody lined up retrospectively, not proactively. If that makes any sense.
I totally agree. And it's the more you dig in it, the more connections you see, and the more impossible it would be for a human to make someone be born on this certain day. And I mean, some of the stuff is beyond human, powers to even make the numbers line up in such a crazy synchronistic way. But it's certainly interesting to look at the stuff, no doubt.
I think the mathematical. My teacher always told me that physicists are the most spiritual of all the scientists, because they're trying to understand something that is preternatural or supernatural, the language of the universe. Right. So they understand that there is a pattern. If you look at Fibonacci, if you look at some of these mathematical sequences as well. But I think that's just the underlying kind of, in the Matrix, when you watch these scenes where they have the zeros and the ones and you see the figure walking made out of zeros, it's something along those lines. Right. It's like a mathematical, metaphysical energy, which you can call dark matter, which composes all of life in the multiverse, all of its dimensions. And when we sit here and we just see, our two hands and stuff, that's fine. There are tons of frequencies, and there are sequences, and there are atoms kind of vibrating around that we don't see. So if all those things line up and they create a message which will eventually take a physical form and become a synchronicity, that happens, in a kind of progression naturally. It wasn't us reacting to the numbers. That's just the more physical kind of way of looking at things, if that makes sense.
I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a little hint that, you're seeing the divine in all of that in a way. And I think it's kind of, you're doing a disservice to apply that to, these evil people were able to do all that. I think that's, kind of giving credit where it shouldn't go.
Yeah, exactly, where it's not due.
Right.
It's a mindset. I think we see what we want to see. If it's fear, it's fear. But again, we're taking our power away from ourselves. We have an infinite connection to that, the divine, the source, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to go anywhere. If you want to give it to other people and give them power over you, then guess what? They will have, and you'll be. That's what you're sending out to the universe. So maybe your boss will be undermining you, or your partner. You're giving away, and you're sacrificing a lot of your, not your integrity, but your infinity, to those factors which are out of your control, and you shouldn't even be bothering with them. I think if you raise
you're
your
missing
frequency,
the beauty in it too.
Yeah. I think if you raise your frequency enough, these things won't affect you. There is a saying, I'm going to paraphrase again, I don't know the exact saying. It says that a man that has reached the high state of wisdom is not affected by the stars. Because you're functioning, you look at life, you're mindful of what's going on, you deal with situations accordingly, and you're not reactive. You're not saying, because there is something happening in this constellation in Capricorn tomorrow, I need to stay in my house, otherwise, the plane is going to fall over my head. Right. You're going to say, I feel fear about this stuff, therefore I'm going to work on the fear and talk to my guidance, so I don't have to base all of my life on astrological predictions, but I will understand what astrology predicts for me later on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I find patterns in my map retrospectively and never find foresights or predictions. And anybody who's predicted anything for me, and I don't mean this with disregard, has been wrong. And I think for most people, telling you you're going to get married at a certain age or you're going to make money at a certain age, and none of these things worked out. So try to live your life proactively and not reactively. That would be my advice in regards to that.
That's beautiful. I love that. Now, do you have any events coming up that you want to talk about?
Yeah. I have the personal retreats, obviously, until, I guess, the middle of November. That's on the website. I have a kind of a retreats page now. And we have an event on the 27th of the month regarding synchronicities. It's what we talked about in the last few minutes, just expanded. It's not about, I see the threes, I see the ones, I see the twos, but why? What do they mean to me? Why are they popping up? And what are they beyond what we see them as in terms of the numbers? What is the etheric significance and the patterns of communication of guidance with you when you're not necessarily listening and it gets to that point where they need to send something your way. A number, somebody saying something to you, a phone call that's, you know, placed at the same time as you're calling the person, things like small things and big things like that. That's going to be on the 27th. Beyond that, as I said, we have the personal retreats. They're going to be based north of Montreal in Quebec, if anybody's around the area. And of course, we'll be taking them with us on the road and relocating after winter, after the winter has elapsed in Canada.
Yeah,
So we'll see where that's a chance to work around.
Now that's all available on indigolightLove.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
my email is indigolights2222@gmail.com if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Indigolight2222
at gmail.com. Any kind of, general inquiries, other inquiries, services, whatever.
And also your Facebook is Indigolight2222.
Yeah, it is.
So people can find you on Facebook that way. Of course, all of that's linked on your website, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I have all the links on the website and the YouTube channel in the About section.
Well, the Synchronicity one sounds really super interesting to me because I've been getting all these sevens, like 7, 77, and then it started turning into 14. So I'd see like every 14 of the hours, so 614, 714. I'm like, why am I seeing 14? And now it's moved to 21. So now I'm getting the 7s, the 14s, the 21s, and I'm just, I know they're there. So, it's like, why are they sticking out to me at this point? So
21 is a 3, so it's like, it's more. I don't try to differentiate between the numbers, to be honest with you, because I've seen a lot of interpretations of what they mean.
All right.
I try to understand why. It's a message. It's like a message that you're aware of. Mm-hmm. When you have these conversations with someone and they will literally say something and you understand that your guidance has chosen this person to cross you in the street and say that one sentence to you so that you can move on with your life. Mm-hmm. That's the place. And also to take the time to meditate and try to access our guidance so we don't need these things. You know what I mean? But I think synchronicities are reactive 100%. I don't think they are proactive, and we can work on ourselves to improve our reactiveness or reactivity, I don't know which word is right, to our guidance so that they don't need to pop up on such a frequency. That's one of the things
you don't so much see it as a signpost that you're on the right track as much as it's
100% that's what it is. But
okay.
It comes when you've kind of, we're talking about how difficult these days are, and they are. Mm-hmm. So you may have your freak out moments. You say, what am I going to do? And of course, you look at your computer and it's 11:11 in the morning. You say, okay, fine, I get it. I'm going to be quiet now, and I'm just going to, go for a walk.
Okay.
But it doesn't need to get to that. So it's the point where we catch ourselves and we're mindful and say, okay, I'm freaking out because I don't have faith, and I need to work on my faith. And I'm going to sit down and meditate for 5 minutes and just do some breaths, change my energy, and then you won't see the numbers. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's funny that you mentioned that because I've had that where I've wondered if I should do something or not, and then immediately look at the clock and it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of like let's get to moving or whatever. Like snapping the fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go. And so you're right. So I wouldn't have even needed that if I would have just immediately intuitively knew. Yes, that's what I should be doing. I don't need the confirmation on the clock to say yes. That's what you're doing. So you're saying kind of moving beyond that needing the need to have the synchronicity, or
I think that the 1, 2, 3, 4 you're seeing is a pattern that's going to replay itself. So you may see the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get it, and the next day or 2 days later it happens again. Mm-hmm. So I try to help people to talk to their emotions.
Right.
That's the main thing that I do. It's not, there's no abracadabra magical to sit and say, okay, I saw the 1, 2, 3, 4, but I don't want to continue this pattern, which I'm going to continue anyways, because the 1, 2, 3, 4 is not sufficient for me to change my pattern. It's just feedback when I'm not listening. And I want to work on myself. So if I feel like I have a tightness in my chest 5 minutes before, I want to kind of meditate and talk to that tightness and say, what is happening here? Mm. Am I resisting? Am I afraid? Am I angry? Am I feeling alone? Am I feeling neglected? Am I, believe that this is not going to work out? So I would focus on that and try to resolve that specific pattern, because otherwise it's just going to come on replaying, and you're going to have the game of guidance giving you the 1-on-1s and this and that, for the next 2 months, when you can just kind of circumvent all that and avoid, the patterns.
I like that. So you're like really tuning into your body and really noticing any tensions or anything like that, and then sort of getting to the bottom of why it's there to begin with,
Yeah,
because it's an indicator of something.
yeah.
You know, maybe
It's
shoulder pain, maybe you're carrying too much weight,
anything,
or
anything in your body,
right.
anything. The usual, the ringing in the ears, anything that keeps on happening over and over again. It kind of bugs you. Needs
Mm-hmm.
looking at. I personally I don't meditate during the day. I
Mm-hmm.
take a toll before I go to sleep, so I sleep well, so I integrate, and I wake up better.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, I believe it's important to meditate before we sleep. So I kind
Mm-hmm.
of talk to anything that's been bugging me during the day.
Mm,
If
okay.
it's tightness in the chest, if it's a lump in my throat, if it's, I don't know, stiffness in the neck, which just to funnily, stiffness in the neck, third chakra, Taurus, flexibility. What am I not being flexible about? Speak to me,
Right.
stiffness in the neck. Just kind of
Right.
patterns like that. I understand there's a pattern. My body is aligned or not with my chakras, and my chakras are trying to tell me something about my behavior, and it's affected by my thoughts and my fears and my happiness and all this stuff. And I just want to understand what's going on in my body. So I use the body as a tool to give you an insight into what is happening or not.
Excellent. Well, that sounds
That's
like they could definitely help some people, so they can also get a hold of you through the website or through
yeah,
the email. Because,
yeah.
dude, that sounds awesome. So, let's see here. Let me make sure I don't have any questions here before we wrap it up.
Yeah, sure.
Uh,
Did you make your hat or you bought it? That was one of my next questions.
I actually got this hat from Frank at East City. He gave it to me. He
Oh yeah,
ordered it from the YouTuber Everyday Masters, who does these reconnective healings. So if you go, it's
every day or every day?
Everyday
Every day
Masters.
masters. Okay,
Yeah, YouTube channel. And
okay,
he's got
okay.
one that's got 1111 on it that he wears sometimes. So I guess, yeah, they got different ones. So.
You should wear that outside and see what people do in terms of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have. I've
Like
had, yeah,
they come and talk
it's,
to you or ask you questions because they understand.
yeah, exactly. It's been really neat, and it's, I had to go to AutoZone for something for my car, and the guy, recognized it. And I even had this homeless lady came up. I gave her $1, and she goes, "Oh, you know what she said? You know what time it is, or something like that." And looked at
Exactly,
my hat.
exactly, exactly, exactly. That's
So it's
pretty
been,
cool.
yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
been
cool.
really
It's like
nice.
your own little secret language that you walk down
Right.
the street and you're like, you wink at each other. Yeah,
Absolutely,
that's
man.
pretty
So it's
cool.
really cool. Awesome, man. Well, definitely want to have you back real soon, man. And
Absolutely. Thank you
it's
so
always a
much, man.
pleasure. It's always a great conversation. People love it.
Absolutely.
Love
I
you guys in the
appreciate it.
chat. Yeah, we'll see you on the next one. And of course, you can find all Alex's links down below to his YouTube channel, his Facebook, and his website. Awesome. Well, thank you again, brother. I'll see you on the
Thank you
next
so
one.
much, brother. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Peace, you guys. If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.